Cantus Firmus. What is Cantus Firmus and how to learn it? Let's discover it in this video. Welcome to this new video where I'm going to introduce you Cantus Firmus, which is the next step in the Musicus Practicus Renaissance path, even if Cantus Firmus is something which has been studied in the Renaissance but also in the Baroque period and later, also in the period of Mozart, Haydn, Beethoven, because the sources of Cantus Firmus arrive up to the Solmization Restoration, what is called Restoration, but maybe it's not the correct term, Restoration, because what about all the Gregorian chant we had in the late Middle Age and in the Renaissance, in the Baroque? So is this not true? Is this not true Gregorian chant? No, it's another version. Is a good version of Gregorian chant, which is called Cantus Firmus, and this is the Gregorian chant studied by Palestrina, Frescobaldi, Mozart, even Bach. Okay, even if Bach was not a Catholic composer, but in that period, in those churches which was Catholic churches, they had this kind of Cantus Firmus. Mozart, Beethoven, up to the second half of the 19th century, when a new way of understanding, of reading Gregorian chant from the restoration of Solem's monks started. But we are in the Renaissance, so even if this is in the Renaissance period, it's something which can be also Baroque. And how to know this? Because the sources you can find in this course are from Aiguin Illuminato, which is 1562, up to the end of the 18th century. If you check, for example, Lazzaro Venanzio Belli, we are in 1788, and that's very beautiful because we have the same things. The same things contained in that book are the same contained in the other book, from maybe some different point of view, with in a different context and period. But what Belli says at the end of the 18th century is basically what Illuminato, what Guidetti, what all the others says before in the previous centuries. So this is a list of different books and sources, articles, and antiphonary. For example, you want to click here, and you get the antiphonary. You can for free read on Google Books, for example, this way. Or you want to read Il Cantore Addottrinato by Matteo Cofferati. Okay, you click here and you arrive here. That's it. So, what is this Cantus Firmus? Cantus Firmus is the Gregorian chant of the Renaissance and Baroque period, classical period, up to the second half of the 19th century. And this is very important because the first part is about liturgy. Cantus Firmus is the Gregorian chant. So if I say introitus, you have to open this book, which is a gradual and not an antiphonary. And so, an introduction, chapter 1 is an entire introduction about liturgy. We have 12 chapters. Chapter 1, history and liturgy. Chapter 2, notation of Cantus Firmus. Chapter 3, intervals and species, so to categorize, analyze and study the elements of the singing, of the chant. Perfect and imperfect tones, tuoni perfetti ed imperfetti. Chapter 5, psalm tone. Chapter 6, mixed tone, toni mixti. Chapter 7, commixed tone, toni commixti. Chapter 8, irregular tones. Chapter 9, tritonus. Chapter 10, affects and detones. Chapter 11, performance aspect. And chapter 12, cantus fractus, which is a bridge between Cantus Firmus and Cantus Figuratus. So, what's in each chapter? In each chapter, you can find, first of all, the stage 1.0. So, 0.0, which is the stage where you can download the PDF, because for each chapter, you have a PDF you can download. You click here, and Google Drive opens, and you can download the PDF to practice, to follow, to take notes, to better understand and do exercises of Cantus Firmus. In chapter 1 you study what is Cantus Firmus, the actors of Cantus Firmus, the liturgical year, the divine office, the chant and its must, and then you have the test. Each chapter at the end has a test. With Google Form you have to fill up the form. This way you can select your questions, and then I can give you a feedback because it's all connected with Google. As you can see, you can log in with Google, so that I can see your answers and I can give you a feedback. Chapter 2 is about notation. So we have the graphic elements of Cantus Firmus, figures and rhythm, tactus, and then the recap of the rules, practice with Venite Exultemus by Directorium Chorium of Guidetti. And as you can see now, let's show you how is a stage, is a chapter, a video. You have here this. In total there are 128 lessons, 128. So this is a very big course and wide course to cover all the topics of Cantus Firmus. So a lot of lessons, especially in chapter 5 about tones. 42 of them are only in chapter 5. So this is, as you can see, you can see here at the top right this keyboard, and when I play the keyboard, now let's get rid of the volume for 1 second. When I play the keyboard here, you can see the notes I'm playing on the grade scale. They are the letters of the grade scale. So if you study solmization, you know what are the notes that we are singing and playing. And this is very important in order to understand what part of the grade scale and the Gregorian hand you are singing. Then, in the next chapter, in chapter 3, you study the intervals and the species, so the diapente and the diatessaron mainly, but also the other species, as you can see. Then you have chapter 4 with tones, perfetti and imperfetti. Also here you have stage 4.0, where you can download the resources. Here you can download the PDF with all the examples, all the tones, all the melodies, to better follow the lessons, to practice them by yourself. And then you can continue. You have also a test for each chapter, 4.8, and then you have the test of chapter 4, exactly as chapter 1. You have the Google form. Then chapter 5 is about psalm tone, and you will sing all the intonatio in all the tones. Dixit Dominus Domino meo, etc. Then you will study the seculorum amen of each tone. And then also a modern version, because as I told you, after the Renaissance Restoration we had different things, because they studied how Cantus Gregorianus would have been in the 7th, 8th century, so a lot of years ago, a lot of centuries ago, around 1000 years before the period of this kind of Cantus Firmus we are studying. But since we are Musicus Practicus of the Renaissance and Baroque period, we focus and study on Cantus Firmus of this period, of the 16th, also 15th, but 16th, 17th, 18th century. Then we'll sing a psalm with all the tones. You study the introit in the Inexit to Israel with the tonus peregrinus. After this, you will move here to chapter 6, which is about mixed tone, toni misti. Commixed tone, toni commisti. Also here you have the PDF with the resources. You have the test. Also here the PDF, and then at the end the text. This is another very long chapter with also analysis, as you can see, of graduals on melodies, offertories, as I show you. Let's do this way, tac, and for example, in this lesson we talk about a special kind of commixtion, and then we analyze a melody, a chant. This is the editio medicea, where you can find that kind of commixtio, in this case commixtion to G sol reus. So this is the perfect commixtio perfecta with the septimus tonus, because then we'll find an ascending species, so the 4th species of the diatessaron, and species are in chapter 3. here. So as you can see, what you study in chapter 3 is strictly connected of what you will study in chapter 7. All of these, of tones and modes, is important for then polyphony. Okay, we don't want to talk here about polyphony. We'll have another course in the next month talking about polyphony, modes and tones in polyphony. But the very basics of polyphony are here in Cantus Firmus, and also the very basic of a counterpoint, because how can you compose polyphonic counterpoint if you don't know how to correctly compose a melody, a single voice melody, coherent to a specific tonus? They started studying solmization, then Cantus Firmus, then notation, then tones and mode in polyphony, then counterpoint. This is the Renaissance path. If you open a book about Renaissance, you can find all these topics, not all in the same orders, because then the teaching was up to the teacher, okay? But all these topics are the main topic you can find in any book of the Renaissance. Then you may also have some books main focus on Cantus Figuratus. Lorenzo Penna, le prime albori musicali, is called Per i principianti della musica figurata, so for the beginners of musica figurata, Cantus Figuratus. But Penna wrote another book called Direttorio del Canto Fermo, so Directorium Chori, the same thing, the guide to Cantus Firmus. And so we have another book about Cantus Firmus from the same author. Then chapter 8 about irregular tones, because there we have some tones which are not regular. For example, with the finalis, the ending note on A la mi re, or Be fa be mi, or Che sol fa ut. And then chapter 9 is about the tritonus. This is a very short chapter, but very important, because sometimes we can temper the tritonus with the flat. Some other times we can temper the tritonus with the sharp. Or some other times it's better that if we don't temperate the tritonus, but if we keep the tritonus for some reasons, if we have the second species of the diapente maybe descending in a quartus tonus, in that case it will be better in some situations to keep the tritonus in order to enhance the species diapente, the second species of the diapente, which is descending, belonging to the quartus tonus. Chapter 10 is one of the most wonderful things you can find in the entire world, because it's about how they thought that this music influenced their mind and also the planets, also the universe. I will give you now a very interesting example. You know that we had the days of the weeks. Monday, Tuesday, or better, starting with Sunday, because they started with Sunday. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then Saturday. But what's this order about? Is this order about the distance of the planet from the Earth? No. This is the Ptolemaic system. Of course, we have to use the Ptolemaic system. The modern system doesn't work, but when they ordered the name of the weeks, of the day of the weeks, they used to combine the primus tonus, which is the sun, and then you learn why this primus tonus, because we have 4 superior planets and 3 inferior planets, with the secundus tonus, which is the moon, and so sun, Sundays, moon, Monday. The tertius tonus is Marte, so Mars, Martedì, we say in Italian. In Latin, dies Martis. So Martedì, then followed by die Mercury, Mercoledì, dies Mercury, Wednesday. Followed by Giovedì, so the superior planet Jovis, Giove, Giovedì, quintus tonus, followed by the sextus tonus, which is Venere, Venus, Friday, Venerdì, Venus. Followed then by Saturday, so Saturno, Saturday, Sabato, yes, is more similar in English than in Italian, Saturday, and then followed by anything, because we have only 7 days of the week, so the 8th tonus is in the starry scale, and in the metaphor of life, this is the place where the octavus tonus is where you will go after the death. And as you can see in the capital of Cluny, of the Bay of Cluny, the octavus tonus takes this inscription, on this scroll on the capital, which says the 8th, so the octavus tonus, the 8th tone, teaches that all the saints are joyful, the last. So this is also the path of the life according to the 8 tones, and this is one of the most beautiful things of the theory, because this is theory of that period. Remember, then they studied quadrivium, trivium and quadrivium. In the quadrivium they studied arithmetic, geometry, astronomy and music. And so you can see here also the skies of Copernicum, Celum Copernicum, Celum Tychonis, Celum Boezi, the Celum of Boezi, and Celum Sonorum Ciceronis, of Cicero, or Cicero, as you are probably more used in English. All of this, beautiful. Then we have chapter 11 about some performance aspects, the qualities of the syllables, ut sol with terribilità, gravity and other things. The possibility to transpose all of them in voci choriste, so to the choral voice in Cantus Figuratus, but this is a connection to Cantus Figuratus and tones and modes in Cantus Figuratus. And at the end, chapter 12 about Cantus Fractus, which is a middle point between Cantus Firmus, where all the notes have the same value, and Cantus Figuratus, which is the Renaissance polyphony, in other words, where you have a mensuration and different values for different notes. And so this is the curriculum of this course, something incredible about Cantus Firmus. So if you want to learn the true way of understanding music in the Renaissance, this is the second step after Solmization, because Cantus Firmus was the basic of the education of any Musicus Practicus of the Renaissance, of the 16th century, 17th century, 18th century, and also the beginning of the 19th century. So after this is all what you can get in this course and all what you can learn in this course. There is an ebook here, downloaded around 50 pages, where you can go more in depth about each topic and decide if you want to study Cantus Firmus.